we have talked endlessly over the last couple of months about all of the controversies surrounding Snow White, and it was clear to everyone that the movie was dead in the water, dead on arrival before it even came out. But even as it failed in its opening weekend at the box office, barely making any money and making about the same overseas, which was a bad sign, and then failing even further when it was beat out in its second weekend by a Jason Statham action movie named A Working Man, which I, by the way, am going to see tonight, which I'm very excited about. The controversies rolled in from 2022 onward, and now it seems like the media is doing everything in its power to kind of shift the narrative around it. And one of the ways this is happening, you know, for better or for worse, is they're talking about review bombing. So what is happening is it was being reported at one point that this was the lowest ever review on IMDb at 1.5 out of 10. Here's the problem. That's not the lowest of all time. First things first, the lowest thing ever recorded on IMDb was actually a Kirk Cameron Christmas movie.
And I have to ask, how big do the movies need to be to like be included in this list? Because there's a lot of terrible movies.
I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of who gave how bad the reviews are. I mean, anything can get a review on IMDb.
Okay.
So it's not like it's gatekept by the size of the production. I mean, it's like a Kirk Cameron like religious Christmas movie that's actually the lowest, like 1.3.
Why? Just because there's.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it seemed like it got panned by critics and audiences.
I feel like you have to watch it now.
Yeah, I know. I kind of feels like I want to. So this is what they said. Rotten Tomatoes. I always want to say Rotten Tomatoes because it's always been Rotten Tomatoes that has been guilty of these types of shenanigans in the past. But I want to talk about what IMDb said. This was their. This is the notice that they put on the page. It says, our ratings mechanism has detected unusual voting activity on this title. At the time of this article's publication, the film has a user rating of 1.5 out of 10, making it one of the lowest rated films ever in the site's history. The film is also not devoid of ratings, as IMDb is showing 270,000 reviews. However, Forbes recently reported that it is likely the result, again, they say likely the result of review bombing, just as IMDb warned, with the outlet noting that 90% of Snow White's reviews on the site have been 1 star. So they go heavily to the very bottom.
Sure.
So the first thing I thought was it doesn't matter. Like, these companies are going to put a disclaimer on this type of stuff and try to soften the blow, but the culture has already made up its mind about this movie.
Wouldn't you expect this in the first 48 hours after release too? Like, if it truly was a review bombing campaign by angry internet trolls or whatever, whoever the group was, wouldn't you expect this to see it right after it drops, not 2 weeks?
I mean, maybe.
Whether it's the disclaimer or whether...
I mean, it probably takes time for that many hundreds of thousands of reviews to accumulate.
Is it... I would be curious, how does it stack up with like total reviews and other movies?
What do you mean?
So like, you know, I know you said it's one of the worst reviewed movies, but I wonder how it stacks up with just like total reviews.
As far, I mean,
that would tell
the number seems high. Like, you mean like the total number of reviews?
Total reviews.
270,000 reviews is a lot. So I tried to check Rotten Tomatoes about what their number was, and all it said was more than 10,000.
Okay.
Which seems perfectly fine and applicable to a movie that did $40 million.
I'd be curious what the average movie gets like with reviews, because if it is a crazy high amount, you know, this is definitely in the eye of the public, and for whatever reason, they're giving it terrible reviews.
And remember, guys, that these sites have kind of been working to shield these movies from criticism for years. If you go over to Rotten Tomatoes to their section, it gives a tomato meter of, that's the critic score, of 29%, and a popcorn meter, which is the audience score, of 74%, which seems to indicate that audiences liked it fine. Here's the thing. If you then switch the tomato meter from top critics at 29% to all critics, it actually goes up to 40%. So the top critics on Rotten Tomatoes are giving it a lower score than the cumulative of all the critics. But if you look at the verified audience of the popcorn meter at 74% and you drop it to all audience, it drops to 19%. Now, if you're wondering what the difference is between verified audience and all audience, is that they introduced this, I believe, after... Yeah, what's up, bud? Serge is here, my friend. I think what they did is after the release of Captain Marvel, and a couple of films after that, they switched. And what they did was they added a verified review setting, which basically means that the only way to verify your review is if you bought your ticket on Fandango, which Rotten Tomatoes owns.
Oh, okay.
Or Fandango owns Rotten Tomatoes. So I think the problem with this also, guys, is like, for the most part, Snopes fact checked it, but nobody. It's the culture's already made up its mind.
That's what I was saying.
The culture's already made up its mind about Rotten Tomatoes, like about Snow White.
Well, yeah. And what I was saying while you were addressing the technical difficulties is that, like, I don't care about the critic score. The critic score is always going to be higher than it should be, in my opinion. It's just interesting that when you do adjust for the total audience scores, like, because I don't remember the last time I used Fandango to purchase a ticket. Maybe 10 years ago.
I don't know. It's like, do you just buy them on site?
I just buy them through the theater I'm going to, or on site,
online or on site.
But it doesn't matter, either or.
It's actually a huge problem for us right now, because what happened is, like, 3 times I've had to buy movie tickets. And every time then, like, something's come up and we haven't been able to go, so I get a refund. But the problem is the refund ends up being like credit, and it won't actually like refund me like money back to my debit card.
Through the website?
Through the theater that we go to. So it goes to like store credit at the theater, but I never want to do that, because to use that you have to go to the theater to use it. I can't use store credit for them or theater credit for them online. I have to do it there, and then I don't know if I'm going to get the seat I want. I don't know. Like, I mean, it's like I've called there and they like nobody's picked up.
That was gonna be my next question.
Yeah.
Maybe you can call, but will anyone answer?
Yeah, like I've called and nobody picks up.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's actually really weird, because you would think that for most of these ticket places, they would want to be as accommodating as possible. We did a whole topic yesterday about how bad theaters are right now and how it's not working.
So how much longer does Snow White stay in the theaters, in your opinion?
At least a month.
Another from now?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I do. At the very least, they're gonna wanna get as much as they can out of it while what's there, and it's not going to do big numbers on. Actually, no. Let me rephrase that. I do think it's going to do good numbers on Disney Plus.
I know. When theaters do show movies, they get a cut of all ticket sales, right?
50%, roughly 50%. Disney takes from what I understand, Disney takes higher in the first week, so Disney keeps more of that. Again, I can't confirm that, but what I've been told is, like, normally it's about a 50-50 split. Disney in the first week of release, the first weekend, keeps like 60 or more of that. But since they are such a big force in the industry, they basically can, brute force the theaters into carrying their movies.
So if that's the case, and let's say you own a movie theater and you know this movie sucks, no one's buying it, does it make sense to cut it off early?
Yeah.
If you're like a local theater, you're not a part of a big chain like an AMC or something.
Yeah.
I mean, would it make sense to just be like, okay, listen, this movie sucks, no one's really watching it, let's just stop show times in a week or two. And
I mean, but one of the
something
issues that people have is, like, they think that the movies aren't given enough time in the theaters to actually.
I would agree if it's a hit right away.
Yeah.
Chat, maybe you know of an example of a movie that had a really slow start and then picked up towards the end of its theatrical run.
So Mufasa is a good example of that recently, where it didn't do great its opening weekend over the holidays against Sonic, but then because it monopolized all of the PLE, the big screen, like the IMAX screenings, the large format screenings, since they basically took advantage of all of those theaters and they were able to muscle out all the competition, that movie ended up like dragging itself to over $700 million, despite the fact that it only opened at 35.
What was the budget on that one?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it was high.
Sounds good though. 700.
It's good considering people thought it was going to be a big flop comparatively.
Yeah.
So I do think that Disney Plus will probably be a better place for Snow White, and I think more people will watch it there. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.